What's up, everybody? This is your boy DC Black coming to you yet again with another review. And I apologize. I've been very terrible at giving you guys these reviews on time, but we're gonna kind of triple up on this review, and I'm going to give a spoiler review of the of chapters 11, 12, and 13. Yeah, I think it's 11, 12, and 13. The episode titles are called The Passenger, The Heiress, and The Siege. Those are the three episodes of The Mandalorian that I'm going to be giving you a review for in this video. So if you have not seen those three episodes, you might not want to check out this episode. Or if you haven't seen any one of these three episodes, you might not want to check out this video because I am going to spoil. I'm definitely going to spoil these three episodes. But I want to start off by saying that these three episodes, to me, while the second episode of season 2 wasn't the strongest, it was a great buffer for what episodes 3 and 4 brought. 3 and 4 brought just phenomenal, uh, just phenomenal quality, as far as work, as in the way it was shot, and just the characters that we got in this episode. So let's just start back with episode 2. So episode 2 starts with after you kind of dealt with everything with the crate dragon. Mando goes back to the woman that goes back to the mechanic, and she tells him basically that the person that she's playing poker with knows where some of his people are. But in order to get that information, she needs to. Oh, my bad. He can get there, she needs to do he needs to do her a favor, and that favor is to get this passenger to this planet. And so now getting this passenger to the planet is important because not only are the Mandalorians seen necessarily on that planet, but the passenger that she's putting on his ship is a woman, and this woman has her babies, and she needs them to get to her husband so he can fertilize the eggs. So right then and there, I'm like, okay, this is not gonna go well at all. This whole thing is set up for it not to go well, because not only do he have to get to this planet and go there and make sure, get her there safely. He's like, okay, well, I'm gonna go, we about to go hyperdrive, and it's gonna be that we're gonna get there in a heartbeat. She says to him, you can't go into hyperdrive, because if you go into hyperdrive, the eggs will die. So he has to basically slum it all the way across to another sector, just so that he can get get this woman and her babies to her husband. So automatically, this is not about to go well. And as he's traveling, he gets to this ice planet. And so immediately before that, he stopped by these two new Republic ships, these X-Wings. These X-Wings are questioning him, basically saying, hey, your transponder's not working. You need to turn it on so we can know who we are. Turns it on for a quick second. Then they start questioning him about because the ship's name is the Razor Crest. And they're questioning him about, hey, were you involved in this situation? And so he immediately books it, and he is getting to this planet. I'm giving you kind of like a real quick summary of what kind of happened in this episode. Then I'm going to talk about it. So basically, they get to the planet. He is this firefight with these two X-Wings. They crash land on this ice planet, and the Mando basically is like, hey, we kind of screwed because this ship is not flyable at all. So the frog lady, she like, hey, I thought you Mandalorians is supposed to deal with honor. So I'm laughing because there's some funny things that happened in this episode. Even though this episode was pretty slow and the pacing was kind of slow, there were some funny things that happened in this episode. So basically, some things happen, and as the events unfold, they are then chased by this ice spider-like thing. The ice spider, then they're rescued eventually by the X-wings, and they are rescued. That's kind of just a shotgun summary of of what happened in the episode. This episode was funny because of everything that Baby Yoda does, and this is why this is why Baby Yoda is the star of this show. I granted it's called The Mandalorian, but to be honest with you, Baby Yoda, aka the child, is literally is the star of this show, especially this season. A lot of the stuff and character things that happens comes from Baby Yoda. So through the whole episode, you have this subplot of Baby Yoda's looking at the frog, looking at the eggs, and this is a nice callback from season one because in season one, when Mando was helping out that little village, Baby Yoda ate that little frog thing, the little frog like creature that was on the planet. So he's looking at these eggs, and it's like, oh, this is food. I'm kind of hungry. I want these frog eggs. So he proceeds to open up the little lock of the where the frog eggs are, grab it, and then puts it into his mouth. And Mando catches him's like, no, 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 that is not food. Don't ever do that again. And so throughout the episode, you keep seeing him grabbing a frog egg, just being like, it was so funny. This is way funnier than I'm kind of giving it to you now. But it was hilarious. Definitely say by far what the saving grace of that episode was Baby Yoda because he just had me cracking up the entire time. Um, them crash landing on the ice planet and Mando having to work to kind of not only get them to stay warm, but get off the planet too. Gave me a lot of Empire Strikes Back vibes, where Luke was stuck on. Man, I am blanking out on the name of this planet. I can't think of it for the life of me right now. The name of the planet, but he was essentially not able to. He got stuck on. He crash landed and he had to stay warm in this creature's belly, basically. So it kind of gave me vibes of that almost. But it was a very slow pace. It was a very slow paced episode. There really not too much major things happening. Dave Filoni also guest starred on the episode as one of the X-wing fighter pilots, and yeah, that's basically pretty much it. For me, this episode really wasn't that much. This was a buffer episode, and this episode brought comedy from Baby Yoda. Other than that, this episode, honestly, you could skip this episode and not really miss much. The only thing that you will probably miss is the fact that the frog woman was important. And that's that's a nice segue into one of the things I want to talk about, and that's the practical effects, especially with this episode of seeing this practical and CGI. The practical effects of the frog woman versus the CGI of the spiders looked really cool. You could definitely even like there were certain things where she used her tongue. It was very, very, very believable with that the frog person looked legit. It didn't look fake. There was nothing phony about it. It looked legit like a real frog person. So I like that. And the spider people and the spider things, the ice spiders was creepy. Didn't know ice spiders could be that horrifying, but yes, they were very, very. They actually reminded me of the spiders. I don't know if any of you guys saw the movie The Mist, but there's a scene in The Mist where there's some spiders that they kind of run into. It reminded me of that. Those spiders reminded me of that. But now we get into the actual good stuff. And of these three episodes, this episode was my favorite. We get to the heiress. So we get to the heiress. They finally get onto this planet, right? And as they get on this planet, the frog lady meets up with her husband. She sees them. She sees them. Everything's great, right? Mando now is like, okay, well, where's my people? The husband says, "Hey, they're usually at this bar here," and that's where Mando goes. Mando is kind of trying to find out from the barkeep, like, "Hey, have you ever seen somebody look like me come around?" The barkeep basically tells him, like, "Hey, I don't know, but there's another dude there that does." He goes to him and he says, "Yeah, yeah, I can take you to where your people are, where I've seen your people before." Puts him on a barge, and we've seen this scene on the trailer. But before that, let me kind of go back a little bit. Before that, Mando's on the dock, and as he's on the dock, because he asked for a ship to be repaired, you see a woman that's in a cloak, and you kind of can feel like Mando senses like something is there, but not really too sure. So he goes over to look, and she disappears. The woman, by the way, is Mercedes Varnado, or as most people probably know her as Sasha Banks from WWE. And she did a good job. Like, I won't say it's a phenomenal job because she really didn't have that much to do, but she did a really good job being the Mandalorian. I would like to see her back in the show and doing more, because even with her speaking parts, the very few speaking parts she had, she landed it like it was a home run. It wasn't like she was trying to be a Mandalorian and she was just being Sasha Banks dressed up as a Mandalorian. She immersed herself into the lore and was a Mandalorian. So I was happy about that. And it disproved my theory that I had. I thought she was probably gonna be like a Sith Lord or something Jedi specific. I didn't even think about the fact that she would be a Mandalorian, or consider the fact that she could be a Mandalorian. But she is. So kind of going back, fast forward, we're there on the barge, right, with the child, and so it was a trap essentially. The child gets not there. They trapped. They had like a creature like in the center of the barge. They knocked the child into the creature into the water where the creature would eat the thing. Mando jumps in. They close the gate. Mando is like trying to get out, and he's about to drown. Basically, where these three Mandalorians jump in, help him out. They kill everybody on the barge. Mando is like, "Hey, the kid's in there." Sasha Banks' character jumps into the water, grabs the child, and comes out. And so we see the three Mandalorians. Right, this is where it gets cool. Suddenly, one of them takes their helmet off, and we see that is none other than Bo Katan. If you guys don't know who Bo Katan is, you need to go back, watch Clone Wars, and you will know who Bo Katan is. What is even crazier is that Bo Katan is played by none other than Katie Sackhoff, who was also her voice, which I didn't know this, her voice actor in the show. I was like, oh shoot. I was pissed because it got spoiled for me on YouTube because I was just scrolling through my YouTube videos because I hadn't watched the episode yet. That night I was pissed. I was so pissed that was spoiled for me. But what happened later was not spoiled for me. So I was happy about it. So I was like, all right, well, I got half of it got spoiled, the other half, sure, fine. I'll take that. So they basically you find out that she is trying to she's sort of leading a rebellion. You also find out, you basically know, okay, after Return of the Jedi, Bo-Katan is still alive somehow. Somehow that chick is still alive. So you're like, okay, cool. All right. And then she says like, "Hey, why you don't take your because Mando was like, oh no, you took your helmet off, put it back on." And she like, "Wait, what?" And then you find out that Mando is actually part of the religious cult sect of Mandalorians called the Watch. The Watch, Children of the Watch, something like that. Children of the Watch, something like that. But you find out that, okay, well, they kind of split off from the Mandalorians because they were very traditional in their nature, and they didn't believe you took your helmet off for nothing at all. And so and then and then the third Mandalorian was this guy. I don't remember his name. He's very forgettable. I'm gonna be totally honest with you. He's very forgettable. Bo-Katan and Sasha Banks' character kind of like swallows up like of that room. I really wish it would have just been those two. I get having the third man, but them two honestly would have been enough. Um, so Bo-Katan got this plan, and they want to raid this ship because Mandalorian weapons is on it. And you kind of find out through certain things that Bo-Katan is looking for something. And so she like, hey, Mando's like, hey, I need to get this kid to the Jedi and all that. And she's saying like, hey, well, you're going to have to help me first or no, that's not happening. So Mando goes to help her. They break onto the barge and they break onto the ship and they're fighting people, which this fight scene is so well crafted of like how they are kind of, you can tell that they're all Mandalorians, so they all four of them know how to fight. But the way the Mando fits in with the three and how in their team dynamic already as they're kind of going through the hallways having a shootout is incredible because it's like you already know that okay, well they're Mandalorians, so they just gel together just because of who they are. They don't have to like have years of training with each other. They don't have to figure out okay, well this is how I am, this is how we gotta be, this is how my team works. They don't have to do that because they're all Mandalorians, and at the end of the day, we fighters. So automatically, the team just gels so well together, and you get that. You find out it's in this is it in this episode? Yeah, it's in this episode that Moff Gideon shows up again, played by Giancarlo Esposito, which he still, no matter if he is got a big portion in the episode or a small portion, always knocks it out the park. So he tells him like, "Hey," and this episode actually was surprisingly like a lot of guest stars was in this show. Like you also see the guy. Oh man, I can't think of his name. He was War. He's the Horseman War in Supernatural. He was. Oh man, I can't think of his name. He's been in so many other things. The Oh man, I gotta look it up now. He's been in so many other things. Man, what is this guy's name? Now it's gonna make me look. Now I'm going to. I gotta find this because this is gonna bother me. Um. Shoot. What is this guy's name? He's always there. All the time. You always see him. Titus Welvier. You've seen him in a bunch of stuff. It's not like he's not been in anything. Oh, he was in Transformers. Yeah, you've seen him in stuff. But he was in this episode. This episode had like quite a few people that was guest stars. It's kind of crazy. But they get on the ship. He's talking to Moff Gideon. He like, hey yo, they boarded the ship and they're in like where our weapons are. And Moff Gideon was just like, it's been real. You on your own. And so dude shoots the two people that's piloting the ship and tries to send the ship into the air. So they finally get to the bridge. Bo-Katan is straight up. It just grabs him. It's like, hey, where is my stuff? And he's like, oh, you talking about the dark saber? Moff Gideon got that already. You ain't gonna ever see it. And I ain't gonna tell you where he is because he'll kill me. And she said, and basically she's like, I'm gonna kill you too. I kill you too. So essentially he has a cyanide pill in his mouth. He bites it, he dies, and they gotta essentially get the ship steady before it crash lands back into the water. Works. And Bo-Katan is like, okay, well, after his kind of situation, Mando's encounter with her second time, because Mando was like, hey, we went back on the deal. I wasn't even trying to like help you get these weapons, and she like, this is the way. So she basically tells him like, "Hey, look, there's a Jedi. The Jedi are around. You're looking for someone. Her name is Ahsoka Tano." I was like, "Oh, that's how they gonna get Ahsoka in the show. Let's go!" So I'm excited. I'm like, okay, and then, but also the name drop she had now is what question is the question I had is because it mentions Corvus, and if you've played Battlefront 2, you would recognize that name because Corvus is the name of a ship. It isn't the name of a planet. Um, and she says Ahsoka's on this planet. I think she says like a plant planet or something. But that's where Ahsoka is. And you can take the child to Ahsoka. So I'm like, okay, Corvus sounds familiar. And I was like, I know Corvus sounds familiar, and it's not a planet, it's something else. And I remember, and then that's when I kind of was looking up. I was like, "Oh yeah, Corvus is the name of that ship that when you play the game, like, was one of the first order or pre first order starships that was still with Palpatine." So Mando gets the child back, and his ship is still a piece of crap, and they're off to go back to get the child back to where he is. This episode to me was freaking phenomenal. I'm like, the way the fight scenes were, the way they were shooting down the hallways, and the way they worked together, that was everything. That episode for me was a 10 out of 10. That was perfection. Okay? Perfection of freaking epic proportions. Like that episode was flawless. But then we get to the next episode. The next episode is the siege, and the siege is interesting because the siege is doing one or two things. Either it's laying the groundwork for something else that was in Legends continuity called Dark Troopers and bringing that in, or this is like giving you hints and nods of understanding how the first order or how Palpatine was able to clone himself in the Last Jedi. Because if you guys watch, this is spoilers for the crappy trilogy, but if you remember when he was fighting, when they were in that when Kylo Ren went to him, he saw a failed clone of Supreme Leader Snoke when Palpatine was talking to him, and Palpatine was a clone. It was a more perfected clone. So in my mind, and the tanks kind of even look similar, but I think that's what we're kind of getting here. But let me kind of give you guys a little breakdown of the episode. Basically, he meets back up with the characters that he met in the beginning. He as he's meeting up with the those main characters of Karga and Cara Dune, Grief Karga and Cara Dune. He meets back up with them on their planet where they had the shootout at the end of the season. And basically he's like, "Hey, I want to basically kind of bring some peace because the black market is black doing their black market thing, and ships are, and we want to make sure that the empire isn't being able to do any more stuff." So they go on this mission to essentially go to this place in this volcanic area where the fight in the season finale, the first season took place. Go there, destroy it, and basically the empire won't be able to do anything on that planet. The planet will be completely free. So they do it. They going through the process of blowing the station up, and that's when they discover the cloning. And they're like, okay. And you start in the scientist guy that was working on the child in the first couple episodes when Mando took the child to the guy and completing the bounty. He was talking about the fact that the child's M count or midichlorian count. That's gonna probably blow some freaking people blood vessels because they don't like the idea of midichlorians, even though like it kind of makes sense. Like it it kind of makes sense because you essentially midichlorians are like cells basically that give the superpowers, but whatever. I would not even get into the discussion why people don't like midichlorians because that will take us down a whole other deep rabbit hole. But yeah, like you find out that they took samples of the child's DNA and they were using it for the cloning process. Now that kind of went into the argument of what I was saying earlier. But you find out that, and that's when this is where Mando, Karga, and Cara Dune find out that Moff Gideon is indeed still alive. They go through it. They go through this episode. Mando's like, I gotta go get to the child like now because Moff probably knows I'm here. He goes, grabs the child. They Cara Dune, Karga, and the guy that's is in indentured servitude to Karga, excuse me, is with them, and then they leave the planet. It's a very like heisty type episode. They grabbed it, they escape, the thing blows up, episode's basically over. Cara Dune has a little interaction with the Republic, with the New Republic, and there's this interaction. You find out that Cara Dune is from Alderaan, and we all know what happened to Alderaan, right? So that's kind of where this episode ends, and this was directed, by the way, by Karga's character. This episode was directed by Karga's character Carl Weathers. The last episode was directed by Bryce. The Heiress was directed by Bryce Dallas Howard. But I like this episode, and this episode for me was a really good episode for lore purpose because this episode. Oh, I forgot. At the end of the episode, you see Moff Gideon with the Dark Troopers. Now, I don't know too much about the Dark Troopers to kind of give information. I do know the fact that they're supposed to be like souped up versions of the Stormtroopers, and they were more powerful than the Sith troopers that Palpatine had. These are like next level. They were clones, but I believe they were like superpower clones or something like that. But it looks like that's what we're getting in this episode. Moff Gideon is creating. He's creating these Dark Trooper super clones that will be an army. But I don't think it's just that. I think it's something else. I think this is really like showing us the Dark Troopers was the start, but the end goal was to create another Palpatine because I think Moff Gideon is working for Palpatine, but we may, depending on how long the series go, we may see hints and nods of okay, this is leading us down the road to not the last Jedi, Rise of Skywalker. But this episode was pretty cool. I didn't like it it wasn't as good as the Heiress, but the Siege I really liked. I like Cara Dune's character. Baby Yoda yet again was hilarious with being in school for the first time. But now that they're on their way to see Ahsoka, which she comes out, if you're depending on when you're watching this, the episode may be on its way out or haven't been released yet, or is out already. We're going to see her in episode 5, and episode 5 is directed by none other than Dave Filoni, the person that created us, that brought Ahsoka to us and created Ahsoka. So I'm very interested to see where they take Ahsoka this season. I will say though that this episode, like visually, was insane. Like I loved this episode visually. I loved and more than both the two previous episodes. Just how the racers, the stormtroopers were using the speeders to chase after Cara Dune and the crew. I really like that. Moff Gideon's character to me is a character that I would really like to explore. I hope that we do get something with Bo-Katan, we getting Bo-Katan live action. I really hope we get a Mandalorian episode, or even if it's like a Disney Plus movie or a spinoff series focusing on her character. I would love to focus on her character and get a little more information. Even in the Obi-Wan series that we're supposed to be getting, maybe even have her character like Obi-Wan meet her. Um, I would love to see her character again and get some more information and background of like, okay, well, she had the dark saber in the Clone Wars. How did she lose the dark saber between Clone Wars and the 5 years after Return of the Jedi? Like, what happened and what happened on Mandalorian? For her to essentially be trying to stage a rebellion, because at the end of Clone Wars, she was getting Mandalore back. Now she lost it again. So it's like, okay, well, what necessarily happened for her to lose it? But yeah, this I know this video is kind of a little lengthy, but because like I said, I'm going into kind of some deep things about the show. But I really like these 3 episodes. My hope is that when we get to episode, Peter about to die. Excuse me. Uh, something weird happened. Got it. All right. Cool. So my hope is that when we get, because episode 5 comes out this Friday. I'm hoping that we get some more. I hope it's not no mess where we don't see Ahsoka to the very end of the episode and it's like a side view of her, or she in the shadows and it's clearly her, or like they say, yeah, you see Ahsoka in episode 5 and literally the last minute and a half is you seeing her. And then then the credits hit, and you gotta wait a whole another week. Because then that's gonna be kind of irritating, because it's just like, yeah, that's Ahsoka appeared, but like we gotta wait a whole episode for her to see her again. Like, what? I hope like we see her out the gate at the beginning of the episode, and we see her throughout this episode, and kind of get some questions of, okay, well, Ahsoka, where the heck have you been? Because the last time we saw you in Rebels, and you were looking for Ezra, and unless Ezra is dead at this point, Ezra should be around, and he's also a Jedi. So where the heck is Ezra, and where is Thrawn? And Sabine too. Like, where the heck is Sabine at? So there's a lot of questions that kind of come up with Bo-Katan and Ahsoka being around. I'm really curious to see where does Sabine and Ezra kind of fit into this whole mythos here. Or did they actually die? And if they did die, I would like to know what happened to them. Because last time we saw Ezra was going to a part of space where ain't nobody ever been there before, and he went there with Thrawn, and no one knows where they are, or how the heck or even explored that part of space. But Sabine and Ahsoka knew he was still alive, and they were about to go. They were going to that unknown part of space, the wild space, basically, and find him. So I would be very interested to see where is he at, and how does that kind of fit into the larger picture here. So if I was to, I give this episode probably about a 8.5 out of 10. The second episode of season 2, that's about like a, let's see, I'll give it about a 6. Yeah, I really didn't care for I didn't really care for episode 2. So episode 2, give it at a 6. Episode 3, complete 10 out of 10. And episode 4, I'm giving that a 7. We only got 4 more episodes left until this season concludes, and I am very interested to see what happens next. So if you guys like this review, I know it was long, but it's 3 episodes, about 10 minutes or so per episode. I talked about each of these. So if you like what you've seen here, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment below. Tell me what you guys been thinking about The Mandalorian so far, and I will see you when I see you. Peace.